The year is 2022, and I've decided to travel back to 1988 and once again fall into the world of forgotten television. Sometimes a show is horribly overlooked and deserves a second chance, and sometimes a show is Eisenhower Lutz. Oh, you know why I was watching this, but before we get into the Bakula of it all, a little context. The name Alan Burns might be familiar to some of you. He created The Mary Tyler Moore Show and Rhoda, wrote for Get Smart and The Bullwinkle Show, and, From a Format by The Munsters. So, he kinda had the idea and someone stole it. And then he made some money. So he had a string of successes in the 60s and 70s, not to mention an Oscar nomination in 1980. He is also, however, responsible for creating many short-lived disasters that blasted across the TV hemisphere and were quickly forgotten. Most infamously, the show My Mother the Car. Yes, that would be the one where the ghost of a man's mother lives in a car and they have wacky misadventures. In concept, anyway.
My mother the car. My mother the car.
Knowing that the height of his success was at least a decade before Eisenhower Lutz makes a lot of sense, because it feels incredibly dated on top of insanely misogynistic. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The last attempt at creating a series by Alan Burns was the 1984 comedy The Duck Factory, starring future A-lister Jim Carrey. The show was surprisingly decent, but due to network interference and some other stuff, they only lasted about 13 episodes. They did manage to snag 2 Emmys along the way though. 4 years later, Burns came back strong with the concept for Eisenhower Lutz, a sitcom about a struggling ladies' man lawyer who can't stop getting into trouble. But why should I explain it when the intro tells the whole story for me?
Hey there, baby, don't I know you? Weren't you my James Dean? A Palm Springs rebel, handsome devil, chasing a big-time dream. You were always running with the wind at your back, looking for a big red Cadillac and a beautiful girl or two, sitting right next to you. Now tell me why we love you like we do. You're short on smart and long on cute, and honesty was never your strongest suit. But me, oh my, when you do the things you do, there ought to be a law protecting girls from boys like you. There ought to be a law protecting girls from boys like you.
This intro is awesomely terrible, which is one of the few good points I'll give this show. Oh, to go back to the era when television themes doubled as short biographies for the main characters. Except Eisenhower Lutz somehow fails at that, because half of this stuff only makes sense if you've seen the pilot, and the other half is utterly irrelevant. Scott Bakula's character, Bud Lutz, is a Vietnam vet, which, I guess if he got in at the tail end of the US being involved in the war, maybe? Does that come up in the show? Well, there's like a line about it.
Well, you know, after Nam and law school, Michigan,
This is the same line that says he went to law school in Michigan, which is contradicted by the intro that says he went to Las Vegas School of Law. So which is the truth, Eisenhower Lutz?
Southeast Las Vegas School of Law.
That's where you went?
Yeah, but I thought we were going to dress that up a little bit.
And apparently he won a jackpot in Vegas and bought a car with it, and possibly was used to help start up his business, but that's unclear. Also unexplained is this Eisenhower dollar that Scott Bakula is holding here. It's already in his hand when the lady gives him her number, so maybe he stole it from her. And this is kind of important, because presumably this is how he got the idea to name his business Eisenhower Lutz. Because, by the way, there is no Eisenhower, it's just a made-up person. You'd think that would be a real issue for Lutz being the title of the show and all, but no, past one line in the first episode, you wouldn't even know that was a thing. Hell, you rarely even see him being a lawyer, to be honest.
Pro bono, of course.
Pro bono?
For nothing?
Oh, pro bono.
Sure.
The lyrics, "You're short on smart but long on cute," were, however, accurate. As is the accusation that Lutz's treatment of women may be something he deserves to go to jail for.
There ought to be a law protecting girls from boys like you.
It really doesn't tell you what the show is actually about, which is a shitty love triangle between Bud, his ex-girlfriend Kay, the successful lawyer, and his current girlfriend Megan, the tiki waitress. How will he choose one? And most importantly, do we care who ends up with him?
Well, okay. Who do I dump?
Also, do you like seeing people on phones? And love triangles aren't a new concept to sitcoms, but I have never seen one that seems to so actively hate women. It's bad. I mean, really bad. Generally, comedies with asshole main characters tend to go one of two routes: give the lead some redeeming features, or a comeuppance. Eisenhower Lutz goes with neither. And that was exactly the intention. He was supposed to be as sleazy as possible with no redeeming features. And Allan Burns thought that it was hilarious. And Dabney Coleman, who was apparently originally going to star in the show, didn't think that Lutz was sleazy enough. That was the problem for him with this concept.
A real sleazy guy with no particular redeeming values. Dabney said, I think he's too nice. And I said, I don't see anything nice about this guy. But he said, well, I do, and I don't see it.
I'm just too darn nice.
Bud is like a walking black hole of charm, a dude who constantly treats everyone around him like garbage, takes advantage of his clients, and seems to constantly be holding back a slur. He does humorous things like not pay his employees and then talk down to them. Ho ho ho! Nonetheless, we are told he is likable without any evidence to support it, and that's quite a feat considering he's played by Scott Bakula.
Yeah, sure. That's right up there with the checks in the mail I respect in the morning.
You slept with Patsy Demeter.
But I pretended she was you the whole time.
Was she pretty?
Huh? Oh, yeah, of course. I wouldn't go out with a barker, would I? Oh, my God.
For some reason, when Bakula was starting out, his typecast was goofball ladies man, which never really seemed to fit. Maybe that's part of why this failed so hard, because it just seems like such a struggle for him to mentally backhand these ladies at every turn.
How could I possibly have thought that somebody like you are...
Megan, the human mind is a terrible thing.
He liked to football, but stupid girlfriend doesn't. He wanna sexa to ex, but instead almost sexa to ex's mom. Unless you think that he keeps this a secret from the ladies, no, they know about each other from the very first episode. They know he wants to sleep with both of them. In fact, they even have a bonding moment over the fact he wants to sleep with both of them, because he's such a great guy.
Are those the most incredibly sensuous lips in all of Palm Springs?
And he just continues to flirt with his ex and date his girlfriend, and the girlfriend acts sad. And the ex tries to get with him knowing he has a girlfriend. There's never a moment where she's like, oh, I kind of feel bad about flirting with someone who's already taken. They seem to act like he's free, but he isn't. It's very confusing. Jealousy on the girlfriend's part is apparently very funny. Actually, it's not even jealousy. Half the time, she seems to be on the verge of a mental breakdown. She practically starts weeping in the pilot when she's told to hide while he's flirting with his ex. Like, what is going on here? You gotta feel pretty bad for Patricia Richardson and Elaine Matthews as Kay and Megan. They didn't know they had Home Improvement and Dave's World on the horizon. This is a real rogues gallery of talent being utterly wasted on this nonsense. This show is especially shitty to Megan's character, who is constantly belittled by her boyfriend, who is a hypocritical, jealous scumbag. For example, at one point, her predatory creep of a professor shows up to ask Bud if she's available, and Bud shoos him away and then blames Megan for trying to force him to make a commitment?
Can't believe you do that, Megan. Messing around with that wuss behind my back.
Buddy, he's not a wuss, and I wasn't messing around.
I see what you're doing here. You're trying to use him to force a commitment out of me, aren't you?
Ew, no! So not only does she have this fucking professor trying to sleep with his students, but now she's being victim blamed for laughs? Why is he even asking Bud for permission anyway? Did he hear Megan talking about her boyfriend in class and then decide to look him up and ask, well, I mean, how close are you anyway? She is a very young, dumb character who people constantly take advantage of, and that's supposed to be humorous.
Is that you?
I'm sorry.
All of this is on top of every scene where Bud tries to get out of plans with her because he either refuses to care about her interests or wants to go on a date with Kay instead. Here's him getting mad at her for feeding a neighborhood cat.
You been feeding that damn cat again? Yeah, you damn cat. Get out of here.
She took his tie to get cleaned and it wasn't back in time, so she bought him a new one, but he hates it because it's plaid.
Plaid? I can't wear a plaid tie to a job interview.
Just unnecessary levels of anger, constantly. Bud can't say I love you to his girlfriend who thinks that he's going to die, but then makes out with his ex. I'm asking myself quite often why Bud is even with Megan. I mean, he doesn't know her favorite movie, he doesn't know when her birthday is, it doesn't even seem like he likes her. The way that he talks down to her and yells at her and orders her around, it's borderline abusive.
Megan, what are all these damn balloons doing in here? She's quitting. Megan, tell her to stay.
Millie went home early.
Did you give any thought to mentioning that sooner?
You said you were on the phone.
That's when I needed to know, when I was on the phone.
That's really sweet, Mickey.
Let me handle this. This could be one of his tricks.
No, but I think...
Miss O'Malley?
You want me to stay home tonight, alone? Would that make you happy?
Yes.
Oh, you're probably saying to yourself, well, his character's supposed to be scummy, right? A real lunkhead, meant to be laughed at and met with derision. We aren't supposed to agree with him. Well, the show says otherwise. When it isn't Bud talking down to Megan, it's his fucking grosso dad, Bud Lutz Sr., who is a font of sexist, terrible jokes meant to make us chuckle with delight. Dude's so repulsive, he enters a scene with the sound of a toilet flush at one point. This is a character who you can practically smell through the screen, a disgusting troll of a man who trundles through the scenery just to throw out jokes that are sexist, racist, or both.
Oh, I don't know. I don't like women drivers. I don't trust them.
The sign's going up.
So's my blood pressure, darling.
You having trouble keeping that sarong up again?
I just figured that as you get older, you might want to remember yourself this way before everything started to sag.
Via con carne means go with God. You Mexicans love that.
He exploited that poor girl and then told her he would turn her boyfriend into the authorities as an illegal alien.
Doing his patriotic duty, I might point out.
What is now the state belonged to Mexico once, and then the U.S. came in and kicked them out.
There must have been a bunch of commies. This country ain't been the same since we lost Joe McCarthy. Geez, Louise, must be lunch hour at the car wash.
Hoo-hoo, hilarious! And if you don't get enough racism from him, you will certainly be able to get some from the white guy who works at the sushi place next door. This is especially good because alongside being an ambulance chaser, Bud is an immigration lawyer. So, cool! A long-running joke seems to be that Bud is embarrassed about being an immigration lawyer and in fact doesn't want to be associated with these poor brown people, which is really great for his Mexican secretary, I'm sure.
So he says that if I give him a hard time about it, he's going to report my boyfriend as an illegal. Can he do that? I mean, is he allowed?
Not as long as I'm around, Gloria.
Why was that supposed to be funny? According to the credits, there was a live studio audience here, and I kind of wonder about that, because there's a lot of things they laugh at that I don't really know why it's supposed to be funny, but then maybe I do believe them, because sometimes it's just polite chuckles. It's really sad.
Man, oh man, doctors.
Oh, and they got some homophobic jokes too, don't worry about it.
I had no idea she was a transvestite.
Please accept this cake as my apology. I baked it just for you. Happy birthday.
Geez, almighty, when I was in the Army, they wouldn't have took a man who knew how to bake a cake like that.
That's kind of a product of the time more than just Eisenhower and Lutz, though, I guess, to be fair. I genuinely had trouble figuring out this show's angle, because normally when sitcoms set up this kind of men against the women thing, the women get some barbs in, and then the characters learn some kind of lesson. Never once do we see Bud called out for his behavior, and if someone is upset, it's never concluded. They just reset by the next episode like it never happened, confusingly. And this might be unfair because this episode was only partial on YouTube, so I have no idea how it ends. But one plot is just like, successful women are scary, and you need to dumb down to please these stupid, insecure men. Kay argued a case to the Supreme Court, but she made Bud feel bad because she didn't hire him. She's just throwing her success in his face.
Perhaps you were a little too... though, I don't know, intimidating, dear. Men are burdened with these egos, and you scare them off.
I guess I might threaten him in some ways. I mean, with my success and his lack of it.
Dear, let him be the man. I'm sure he's quite good at it.
Awful. Even this waiter is bullying Kay into getting the kind of wine that he suggests and not the one that she wants. Like, what are we meant to take away here? Women better listen to the men, even if the men don't know what they're talking about. And of course she doesn't like the wine, but she's the one that's in the wrong because it's intimidating to ask for the wine that she wanted in the first place. Meanwhile, Lutz sits at home like a big baby watching football and drinking beer while his girlfriend that he's constantly cheating on is massaging his feet.
Give me a beer, will you?
Also, he comically tries to avoid commitments. Her feelings are actually really hurt here because he implies that he doesn't respect her, but he doesn't want to talk about it because he's too busy ordering her to grab him a beer and watching the game.
Do we have to do this with a minute and a half left in the game and the score tied?
Again, I think this is meant to tickle our funny bone. Her major takeaway from this scene is that this was a positive interaction and he inspired her to finish high school. Yay! But wait, oh no, can she start her last semester of high school when there's a football game?
Hey, that's great.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I start Thursday night.
This Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
There's a football game.
Yeah, so fuck off! It's right around the time that Kay is apologizing to Bud for this whole thing and then promising to cook him a gourmet meal that the tape rightfully decided to kill itself, so I have no idea how the story concludes. I mean, maybe the ending was something that fixed it, but judging by all the other episodes, I kind of feel like no. This is just bizarre. Episodes don't have final acts, they just sort of end. Like the one where they're taken hostage in the office. Bud decides he's gonna team up with the guy so he can make some heroic story out of it. And he acts like he's gonna make some big sacrifice, only for them both to be drugged by the coffee Kay laced before they were let go. Kay gets her rightful credit in the paper, Bud is furious. The end. The others never find out he was in on it, or that he manipulated them into thinking he was in real danger. Kay decides not to go to the Supreme Court. You know that plot that they set up in that episode about how she shouldn't be intimidating to insecure men? Yeah, she gives that up because she thinks that Bud's in danger. But she never finds out this wasn't real. At one point, they think they've killed each other like the end of Reservoir Dogs. This was the one time when a scene might have been funny, but the timing is so off it's unreal. And it would have been even funnier if it had a punchline, like them finding out and being pissed. But they just don't. This happens anytime a joke might work, despite everyone involved trying their best to get blood out of stone. A joke is set up and then left hanging to die.
You were the first guy that I'd ever really been strongly attracted to.
Yeah, Kay, but I don't want to get into that now. It's Megan's birthday.
But don't get too comfortable not laughing, because here's another thing I didn't get. Eisenhower and Lutz lasted a whopping 13 episodes, and yet for some reason, they decided almost every episode was going to be a very special episode. Right after the pilot, Bud's homunculus father gets a hernia and goes to the hospital. This is the same episode where Kay and Megan talk about how great Bud is, by the way. Laugh, 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 Dad's gonna be okay, boom, sad now. I choose to believe Bud was actually devastated that his father was going to live, thus making this the best joke they ever made. This is followed immediately by the episode about Megan's abusive ex-husband. Don't even get me started on Megan's abusive ex-husband. Apparently, Bud handled the divorce case and got her out of that situation, so now she has this misplaced sense of loyalty and is in another abusive situation, thus continuing the cycle. Pretty bad. And just to be clear here, I'm not like inferring something about the husband that isn't explicitly in the text. They do say that he was throwing stuff around and being physically violent when Bud got Megan out of that situation, like had to rescue her at her house. Also, they got together when she was underage.
I was in my senior year at Las Vegas High. Here he was, this hot new stand-up comic. He could have had dozens of showgirls, but he fell in love with me. Anyway, he got this job in Reno, and he asked me to go with him, so I did.
I had to keep telling her, honey, relax. We're legal now.
Yeah, laughing a lot at those statutory rape jokes. Pretty cool, Eisenhower and Lutz. He was the reason she dropped out of high school. This grown-ass man took this young, underage girl out of high school, to Reno with him. And this show is not addressing the real issues with that. But oh no, what will Bud think about him being back? Truly, he's the one that suffers the most.
All these memories came flooding back, like how Bud had to sneak me out of my apartment because Mickey was trying to bash down my door. I don't want to put Bud through that again.
He's not even worried about her emotional state after finding out that the ex is back in town. He's just glad that she's not pregnant. No, his main concern is whether or not the ex will be funny enough while he does a stand-up routine following off-screen Robin Williams that Megan will leave him. As if the only thing keeping her and Bud together is her not hearing hip jokes about the movie Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robin Williams! Wasn't Robin wonderful in that movie Popeye? Yeah, that's a movie for people who don't want to stand in long lines.
Megan tells the guy to hit the road herself while Bud just sits there jealously the whole episode. Cool. The pregnancy scare joke is even funnier because the next episode, Lutz finds out that he does have an illegitimate child. He's a regular chip off the old block, as he also likes to sexually harass.
Jay, please don't ask me out again.
You got kind of dark eyebrows, don't you?
The episode after that, he finds out Bud Sr. is not his biological father. The episode after that was missing from YouTube, and the illegitimate son never showed up on the show again. So I'm gonna guess things ended bloody. 2 episodes later, hostage situation.
You can't escape without a bloodbath.
We're talking maybe a 50-50 ratio of special episodes versus lighthearted episodes in this supposed comedy. Adding to the depressing look is the unusually dark lighting in some scenes and high ratio of scenes at night, which seems kinda weird for a sitcom. Not to worry though, as is in his contract, Scott Bakula did get to sing and play the piano.
This conversation has taken a real depressing turn.
This is a mess, just a real mess. You can tell everyone's trying, but the material is just so awful. Patricia Richardson gets the best line deliveries, and you can see why she excelled in this genre, but even then, she really has to work.
Wasn't that the year I lost my virginity in the backseat of your car with what's-his-name, you?
I also think that Scott Bakula is great at comedy, but not necessarily sitcom comedy, and it might have been a better sell with a different lead. He can't help but project niceness, and this character is supposed to be a huge jerk, which somehow makes all of the misogyny feel that much worse.
Women aren't just bodies. Sometimes they're, well, people. What do you think? If there was anything going on, you think I'd tell you? I'm just too darn nice.
The fact remains, however, the whole concept was bad from the get-go. If you're gonna do a show predicated on the idea that your lead is a sexist, horrible scumbag, you'd better have some really funny punchlines and some clear intentions, otherwise you're part of the problem. Apparently they were very close to being picked up for a second season, and if that had happened, there would be no Quantum Leap. What kind of dimension would we be in right now, with season 2 of Eisenhower and Lutz?
Oh boy.
They didn't have enough plots to sustain 13 episodes, much less multiple seasons. But apparently Alan Burns thought differently, because you know what? He remade it. Yes, the following year, he took the same cast, minus Scott Bakula, who was doing Quantum Leap, and decided to retool the idea into a radio station in the equally short-lived FM. And FM was exactly that. It was meant to be the same show again, to say, hey, this was actually a good idea.
And I decided what I want to do next is a show using the same cast, exactly the same cast, with another format. Take it to NBC and just sort of shove it down their throats that they had made this big mistake.
Truly, the way to fix this was to get rid of everything but the worst ideas. So Patricia Richardson is once again the successful ex, and Elaine Matthews is the much younger love interest. But this time, Patricia Richardson is married, and Elaine Matthews is someone Robert Hayes used to babysit when she was 5. And now he wants to sleep with her! Funny! Gross! Why? Oh, they actually do sleep together, by the way, just in case you were wondering about that. You don't have to watch it now. The really sad part is, they actually did manage to make a better sitcom, and that it wasn't depressing and awkward most of the time. But the end result is complete mediocrity.
Now, you'll excuse me. I gotta get back to this extremely important case about stuff.
Does Eisenhower and Lutz have any redeeming features? As a sitcom, no, flush it down the toilet. But as an artifact featuring future successful actors, and an example of how not to do a sitcom, perhaps there is something to be gleaned. I can say that I got something out of it, even if it was just anger. Awkward, somber ending, and we're out.
Now tell me why we love you like we do. You're short on smart and long on cute, and honesty was never your strongest suit. But me, oh my, when you do the things you do, there ought to be a law protecting girls from boys like you. There ought to be a law protecting girls from boys like you.
I meant a soft drink.
Oh, yeah. You got any Gatorade?